You enter a relationship. There are conversations, agreements spoken aloud, commitments made explicitly. But beneath those stated terms, something else is being negotiated, silently, automatically, without awareness. Roles are being assigned: parent, child, savior, judge, ghost. Each person taking up a position in a structure neither designed deliberately, but both will enforce relentlessly. And woven through these roles are clauses, hidden terms, unspoken agreements about who will carry what, who will initiate, who will withdraw, who will regulate emotions, who will be blamed when things go wrong. You do not read these terms, you do not negotiate them, you do not know they exist, but you are bound by them, and months or years later, when resentment appears, when betrayal is claimed despite nothing changing, when the relationship collapses under expectations neither person articulated, both will wonder, what happened? What happened is simple. The contract was enforced, the hidden clauses activated, the roles played out exactly as assigned. Welcome to relational economics, where love is not what you feel, it is what you unknowingly agreed to provide. Today we investigate unconscious relational contracts through transactional analysis and object relations theory. We explore how Eric Berne's work on ego states reveals the roles people adopt, how object relations theory explains projection of internalized figures onto partners, and why people experience betrayal when implicit terms are violated. Berne, working in the 1950s, observed that people shift between different modes of being in social interactions. He called these ego states: parent, adult, and child. The parent ego state contains recordings of external authority, rules and conditioning absorbed from caregivers. It operates as critical parent, controlling, judgmental, or nurturing parent, caring, protective. The adult ego state processes information rationally, evaluates reality, makes decisions based on current data. The child ego state holds feelings and spontaneity of early life. Free child, spontaneous, playful, or adapted child, compliant, shaped by the need to gain approval or avoid punishment. Every interaction is a transaction. One ego state addresses another. The transaction is complementary when the response comes from the addressed state, or crossed when it does not. In relationships, partners unconsciously settle into patterned transactions. One adopts parent, the other responds as child. Both remain locked into these dynamics. Object relations theory suggests people carry internalized objects, mental representations of significant others from childhood. Based on this framework, these objects may be projected onto partners. The theory proposes you do not see your partner as they are, you see them through the lens of internalized figures. This creates a system, an unconscious contract. Both people enact roles assigned by templates formed before they met. When patterns align, the relationship feels effortless. But what you are recognizing is not each other. It is a complementary fit between unconscious systems. And when the fit breaks, when someone violates the implicit role, the system destabilizes, and betrayal is claimed, even though nothing actually changed. What changed is the unconscious contract was violated. The savior operates from parent ego state, fixing and rescuing, taking responsibility for the other person's emotional state or practical problems. The role feels necessary, but it creates dependence. The partner in the complementary role, often child, learns problems will be solved for them, that emotional regulation will be provided externally. Resentment forms. The savior grows tired. The rescued partner feels smothered, but neither can name the dynamic. because the role was never stated, it was enacted. The child role is about remaining in adapted child ego state, seeking approval, avoiding responsibility, expecting the partner to function as parent. Some adopt this because it was adaptive in their family. The pattern transfers. They unconsciously seek partners willing to parent them, and when they find one, the contract is sealed. The judge operates from critical parent, evaluating, finding fault, holding the partner to standards they may not have agreed to. Judgment creates a dynamic where the partner either rebels or complies, shrinking into adapted child, and trying desperately to meet shifting standards. The ghost withdraws, emotionally unavailable, present physically but absent relationally, operating from avoidant adult or withdrawn child. The ghost's partner becomes the pursuer, seeking connection, and the more the pursuer pursues, the more the ghost withdraws. These roles are not personality traits. They are relational positions, adopted unconsciously based on what worked early, maintained because they create familiar structure. The roles require each other. The savior needs someone to save. The child needs someone to parent them. The judge needs someone to judge. This is the contract. You play your role. I play mine. And together we recreate relational dynamics learned before we had language. You feel betrayed, but when asked what your partner did differently, you cannot articulate it. They are the same person, behaving the same way, but something feels wrong, like an agreement has been broken. What happened is an implicit term was violated. Early in the relationship, patterns establish. Your partner consistently initiates plans. You respond. This creates an unspoken agreement. I initiate, you respond. Then one day, your partner stops initiating, not because they decided to change terms, just because they are tired or expecting you to initiate. But you experience this as abandonment, because the implicit contract said you will initiate, and now you are not. Your partner is confused. They did not agree to always initiate. They were just doing it. What is the problem? The problem is the unconscious contract. Terms were never negotiated, but they were established through pattern, and pattern becomes law. Object relations theory explains this through internal objects. You have an internalized representation of what a caring partner does, based on early experiences with caregivers. When your partner matches that internal object, you feel secure. When they deviate, you experience betrayal, not because they promised to match your internal object, but because the relationship only feels safe when they do. This is projection. You are seeing your internal object, and when your partner fails to conform, the system destabilizes. You need initiation to feel loved. They need a space to feel safe. Both are valid. Both are based on early templates, but both cannot be satisfied simultaneously. Resentment forms. Each person feels the other is violating terms, but the terms were never stated. Berne's concept of complementary transaction explains the destabilization. When the relationship begins, transactions are complementary. Your child seeks care, their nurturing parent provides it. But over time, one ego state shifts. Your child matures into an adult. You no longer need parenting. You want partnership. But their nurturing parent is still active. The transaction becomes crossed. You address them from adult, they respond from parent, and crossed transactions create conflict, because the contract was unconscious, and there is no mechanism for renegotiation. Resentment accumulates through hundreds of small violations of implicit terms. Each time your partner fails to meet an unstated expectation, a withdrawal occurs. You do not confront it, the expectation was never articulated, but the feeling remains that they should have known, that if they cared, they would have anticipated your need. This is child ego state operating. The child learned early that caregivers who love you can read your needs, that you should not have to ask. This logic transfers to adult relationships. If I have to tell you what I need, it does not count. But this is not realistic. Your partner did not raise you. They do not have access to your internal experience. Yet the expectation persists, because it is part of the unconscious contract. So violations accumulate each time they fail to anticipate, each time their behavior does not match your internal object of what a caring partner does. Resentment builds, not from one large betrayal, but from 1,000 small misalignments. Object relations theory describes this through splitting. When the partner fails to meet the projection, they are split into bad object. The partner who was once perfect becomes the partner who can do nothing right. But the partner did not change. The projection changed. Berne identified games, repetitive patterns that appear normal but conceal hidden motives. One common game: why don't you? Yes, but. One partner presents a problem. The other offers solution. The first rejects each solution. The game continues until the solution giver gives up. On the surface, this looks like problem solving, but the actual transaction is parent trying to rescue child, and child refusing rescue because the goal is not solution. The goal is attention. When the partner stops offering solutions, the child experiences abandonment, even though the partner was never supposed to solve the problem. They were supposed to keep trying. That was the unstated term. This is how resentment forms, through games, through crossed transactions, through violations of terms that were never negotiated but are still enforced. Relationships are not primarily about feelings. The structure is the system, the pattern of transactions, the assignment of roles, the projection of internal objects. And systems follow rules. They maintain homeostasis. They resist change. This is why relationships return to familiar patterns even after conflicts seem resolved. The feelings change, but the system reasserts itself. Berne described life scripts, unconscious life plans formed in childhood that determined adult choices. In relationships, scripts dictate who you choose, how you interact, what roles you adopt. Research building on Berne's work suggests people unconsciously select partners who fit their script, who will play the complementary role. And once the system is established, it becomes self-perpetuating. Your behavior elicits their response. Their response confirms your expectation, and the loop continues. This can occur in relationships that feel terrible, that cause suffering, that both people claim they want to leave, but they do not leave, because leaving would require exiting the system, and the system, dysfunctional as it is known. Object relations therapy helps people recognize their projections, see the internal objects they are imposing on their partner, differentiate between who their partner actually is and who they need them to be. Transactional analysis therapy works by increasing awareness of ego states, teaching people to choose adult-to-adult transaction rather than remaining locked in parent-child dynamics. Both recognize relationships are systems, and systems cannot change through feeling alone. They change through awareness of a structure. But this requires seeing the contract, understanding the roles you have been playing, recognizing the internal objects you have been projecting. The contract cannot be changed until it is read, and reading it requires observation. What role do you consistently adopt? When conflict occurs, do you become critical parent? Do you retreat into adapted child? Do you attempt adult while your partner remains emotional? What role does your partner adopt? Are you playing parent to their child? Are you both competing for the parent role? These are ego states, ways of being that serve functions. The question is whether the pattern serves the relationship. Next, examine your internal objects. What did care look like in your family? What did love mean? What behaviors signified attention or abandonment? These templates are your internal objects, and you are projecting them onto your partner, expecting them to behave in ways that match those templates. But your partner did not agree to match your templates. They have their own. Understanding this reframes the conflict. The problem is not that your partner is wrong. The problem is that your unconscious systems are misaligned. Berne proposed that healthy relationships involve adult-to-adult transactions, where both people process information rationally, make decisions collaboratively, respond to current reality rather than past templates. This does not mean eliminating parent or child ego states. Nurturing parent provides care when needed. Free child brings play. But the relationship should not be locked in parent-child dynamics. Object relations therapists help people integrate split objects, to see their partner as whole, not all good or all bad, but actually existing, with complexity. This integration requires mourning the fantasy that your partner will perfectly match your internal object, that they will intuitively know your needs. That fantasy must be released, and in its place, a relationship based on who both people actually are. But this requires reading the contract, making explicit what has been implicit, negotiating terms consciously. And for many, this is too threatening, because it requires admitting that much of what felt like love was projection. But once the contract is visible, it can be rewritten, not by one person imposing new terms, but by both people operating from adult, agreeing to something different, something based on reality, not templates, just two people, seeing each other, choosing each other. You entered a relationship, and beneath the stated terms, an unconscious contract was written. Roles were assigned, clauses established, expectations set, all without awareness. And you have been enforcing that contract, feeling betrayed when implicit terms were violated, building resentment when your partner failed to conform to projections you did not know you were making. This is not your fault. The contract was written by templates formed before conscious memory, but it is your reality, and it will remain your reality until the contract is acknowledged. What if the person you are angry at is not violating who they are, but failing to match who you unconsciously needed them to be? Relationships are not just feelings, they are structures, systems with rules, contracts with terms. Reading the contract does not guarantee the relationship will survive. Sometimes the terms are too incompatible, sometimes the roles are too rigid, but at least you will know what you were agreeing to, what you were enforcing, and that knowledge creates choice. The choice to renegotiate or the choice to leave, but no longer the prison of enforcing a contract you never read. Over the next week, notice your patterns, not your feelings, your patterns. What ego state do you operate from? What role do you consistently play? What do you expect without asking? The contract is always being written. The question is whether you will participate in writing it.